शुभं करोति कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदा शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योति नमोऽस्तु ते।
A very good evening to all of you. On behalf of ICRDE, International Center of Resource Development for Educators, I welcome today's speaker, one of our trustees, Ms. Pavitra Desai, and also welcome each one of you present here for our 6th Tuesday webinar series. ICRDE has been launched on World Teachers' Day, that is on 5th of October 2021. Since launch, we have conducted 5 Tuesday webinars, a 2-day national conference, and a talent unfold session for teachers. ICRDE, that is International Center of Resource Development for Educators, is a platform where teachers and educators are maneuvered to excel and mentor the student community through local and international mentorship. ICRDE offers opportunity to experiment and implement ideas, innovations, and collaboration to achieve performance and continuous professional excellence. Also, ICRDE is where the confluence of like-minded individuals share and imbibe knowledge, experience through interaction, deliberation, and international exposure. We have 6 well-known and experts in the field of education on advisory panel. I request all the educators who have not yet become the member of ICRDE to become the members by logging into www.CIRDI.in Members Arena. Membership is completely free. You have to just keep your photo, passport size photo, and your signature ready for uploading. In order to move further, I request Mrs. Arundhati Jersapa, an ICRDE member and a senior teacher from 𝐕𝐵𝐸𝐵𝐸, Mumbai, today's master of ceremony, to introduce the speaker and go ahead with the program. Arundhati, please.
Yeah, thank you, sir. A very good evening to one and all again. I welcome each one of you for this webinar organized by ICRDE. ICRDE, the International Center for Resource Development for Educators, is the initiative of educators, Dr. Suresh Nair and Mrs. Deepa Desai. Dr. Suresh Nair is the principal of 𝐕𝐵𝐸𝐵𝐸 and Junior College, having experience of 34 plus years in the field of education. He is the recipient of Maharashtra State Best Teacher Award, Rajya Shikshak Puraskar from the government of Maharashtra, apart from many other accolades. Mrs. Deepa Desai has been in the field of education for the last 36 years and is a recipient of many awards for her work. She has been the former principal of RSP, Arya Vidya Mandir, Juhu, ICSE, and former head of IES, Manik Vidya Mandir, ICSE. The NEP 2020 brought in new dimensions in the field of education, which most of us as principals, teachers, students, or the parents are equipped to adapt to. However, a little support, a push can do wonders. An experienced helping hand is what is needed to achieve the desirable goals. It is this thought that led to the inception of ICRDE to help the teacher community to grow, explore their talents, which in turn will be beneficial for the students, thus raising the bar of education as well as educational institutions. ICRDE believes that teachers as facilitators are the most effective medium towards progress and development. The objectives of ICRDE are to empower individuals, to organize and provide unique, innovative, and progressive ideas to help educational institutions move ahead and serve all the stakeholders, to promote and work towards the UN SDGs, to build individuals and communities with sustainable skills, values, and initiatives through refined and extensive research and assessment to become effective solution providers in the field of education and development sector with up-to-date mentoring, training, and information. Partner with the corporate sector to seamlessly and effectively drive social, cultural, and educational programs with projects. Its vision is to be the center of possibilities for educational, corporate, and social organizations in bringing sustainable development towards economic literacy, inclusion, and individual aspirations. Some of the initiatives planned by ICRDE are for teachers, resource building team, opportunity to offer value-based support through community projects, and many more. For students, additional learning resource center, scope for school education funding, earn and learn, and many more. And for organizations, conduct survey research and assessment towards identifying learning gaps, provide scope for global recognition, provide placement services, to name a few. The guest for today's webinar is Ms. Pavitra Desai. Ms. Pavitra Desai holds a master's in applied psychology from Mumbai University and postgraduate diploma in counseling from Xavier's Institute, Mumbai. She is currently conducting an ongoing research on neonatal hypoglycemic brain injury for children and adolescents since 2019. Ms. Desai is currently working as a senior psychologist with the Kokilaben Dhirubhai Ambani Hospital and Research Center, Mumbai. Prior to this, she was the head of Department for Psychology, Operations, and Quality Enhancement with Drishti to offer a reliable and comprehensive counseling support system and services. She has also been invited to speak and often conducts group therapy with patients having cancer, TB, obesity, epilepsy, and autism, and with the family members too. A dedicated psychologist with vast experience, Ms. Desai provides patients with innovative treatment to navigate psychological struggles. She feels committed to offering necessary support through regular analysis, evaluation, diagnosis, and implementation of treatment. Ms. Pavitra Desai will be speaking today on enhancing the psychological well-being of secondary students. Before that, I would like to announce ICRDE has a newsletter started by CIRDI with the second issue is ready for release. I request our guest speaker, Ms. Desai, to declare the release of CIRDI newsletter.
Thank you so much for this introduction, and I declare that you can go ahead with going ahead with it. Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Now I would like to...
One second, Adhd. I welcome our esteemed advisory panel member, Dr. A.P. Jayaraman, Senior Nuclear Scientist from DARC. Sir, welcome to you. Yes, go ahead.
I would like to now invite Ms. Pavitra Desai to address the forum.
Thank you so much, first of all, for such a warm welcome. There was a lot said. I think the only thing that you need to know is I'm very passionate about psychology, about creating more awareness, and I'm thrilled to actually speaking to you all. I'm going to give you all a disclaimer. I am much more comfortable talking face to face. Technologically, I'm a little challenged. So I apologize in advance if you see me fumbling with anything tech related. Please bear with me on that. Thank you so much that we can have this session today. I think the founders at ICRDE, I'm so thrilled that I can be a part of this and I can help out in any way possible to create more awareness and help in any which way that I can with the teachers as well. I'm going to share my screen right now so we can start with the presentation. I hope it's looking clear to everybody.
Yes, yes.
Perfect. So yes. In the introduction, like you all heard, we're going to be talking about enhancing the psychological wellness of secondary students. In my opinion, any seminar, any presentation that we attend, it's only successful if the participants can take something back. So what I'd request all the participants to do, just take 2 minutes out and put down minimum one thing that you expect out of this presentation. Put it down on a piece of paper so that at the end of the session, when we are covering questions, if there's anything that I haven't been able to cover or I've fallen short in any which way, maybe I could address that in terms of questions. So just take 1 minute and put down anything that you expect out of this session today. While you're penning down your expectation, I'd also like to share that I would like this session to be as interactive as possible. So if there are certain questions that you all can contribute to, it'll really help because it'll make the session more fruitful for everybody. If there's a question asked, I've confirmed, and what I've been told is that if anybody wants to respond either in the form of a query or an addition, you all just need to raise your hands and the tech team will give you all the rights to unmute and communicate your answer. So just keep that in mind whenever you all want to share something. I hope that's been enough time for everybody to just put down what they expect. To start off, I think it's very important that we all are clear on what we understand by psychological wellness. So could anybody share what their understanding is? What does psychological wellness or mental wellness mean to them?
Feeling peaceful in mind.
Feeling peaceful in the mind. Okay. Okay, great.
Without any stress or tension, like.
Without any stress, tension. Great.
This, Ms. Desai, you have made our work very easy. Okay. We can see your second slide, which says everything about it. So,
oh, does it? Oh, okay. See, this is my tech challenge coming in right
no,
here.
I haven't seen this thing.
See, no cheating. He's not doing any cheating. Okay, so again, my tech challenged mind will ask you, do you know how to turn that off?
No. You will have to go to your slide 1.
Okay. 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 So there's no cheating going on. Okay. Okay. Anybody else wants to share what they understand by psychological wellness or mental wellness? Anybody?
May I?
Yeah, please go on.
Can we take it like this, that it's a kind of situation where students are able to cope up with the studies as well as the activities as well as the pressure which could be there from the parents or whatsoever.
Okay,
it's like dealing with them comfortably and being able to do the things that they should.
Right. So what I'm hearing you say is, you mean to say functioning and being able to handle every area of their life or whatever stressors come in. Is that what you mean?
Yes, basically when I'm talking about the students which we deal with in the secondary, upper secondary, we find that like after 8, 9, 10, 10, they are the ones who are teenagers, and a lot of changes, physical changes and the psychological changes, whatever keep on happening. So to help them, I mean, it is like, you know, they should be able to they watch themselves growing, they feel that their parents are expecting a lot, their teachers are expecting a lot, plus their own interests. So it's like, is it like coping with everything?
Very well put. I think Miss Rachna Kamath has also raised her hand. You can go on. Hello.
Ms. Rachna, please.
Rachna, please unmute yourself.
She's already put emotionally strong.
Oh, okay. Emotionally strong. Okay.
We have another person who has said in the chat box, able to cope with day-to-day functions without being intimidated by circumstances.
Okay. I think all of y'all are quite clear on what that means, on what we understand by psychological wellness. So very simply, it's where your mind is in order and it's functioning in the best possible way, the most appropriate way that it can. And because it's functioning like that, I think what even Ms. Geeta was saying, it allows you to think in the best possible way, to act in the best possible way, and also feel to the right extent. And because your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions are much better and focused, you can accordingly, physiologically and socially do well. One thing that I really liked in most of the answers, it was about how you have to cope the best way possible with whatever stress that's coming on. And this is the distinction that I wanted to bring in, that one can be mentally unwell even in the absence of an illness or a condition. And vice versa, I can be mentally having an illness in the form of an anxiety disorder, depressive disorder, I can have a learning disability, and I can still be psychologically well. And that's a distinction that's very important for us to understand, because then we understand the students better. We don't label them. We don't come up with an assumption of any particular aspect. And mental wellness, like all of y'all know, it's not that you've reached it and now everything is fine. It's a process. It's a journey that we are going towards. And the reason why this session becomes so important and why are we focusing on the mental well-being of students is because of the rise that we have been seeing, all mental health professionals have been seeing for quite some time, in the conditions and the difficulties which not only children and adolescents, but even adults are facing. The rates of mental health concerns, depression, suicide are extremely high. And what we found is that the start of this is in children and adolescents. So if we know this is where it starts, then this is the best time that we can look into it. We don't want to wait till it becomes a disorder and then look into it. You all deal with kids on an everyday basis, and I'm sure the struggles, the challenges are something that you very frequently see. And understand, out of all the kids that you all see, maybe 50%, 60% of them are not having any particular condition. They may not be having a disorder. They may be feeling mentally unwell. But because we're not able to give them the right kind of attention, because we're not able to identify this, it goes on increasing, and then it can become a mental illness. Considering the impact that school and all of you teachers have on the kids, this is why this session is so important. So that before something becomes a problem, we're catering to it. We're not allowing it to become the bigger problem that it can get. So there are warning signs which are very important for us to be able to look at. There are some signs which we may feel are very normal, which happen to a lot of kids, but each and every one of these warrants an attention. If a child has been functioning in a particular manner, and you're seeing any of these changes taking place, it's telling you something is not functioning as it should be. And hence, if we know something isn't functioning properly, we start making the changes immediately. Now, for adults, when they don't socialize or when their work starts getting affected, we know something is wrong. For children, usually the yardstick is their academics. I don't mean to say that it's the most important thing. All of us know that's not, but it is one factor that does determine if something's going wrong. If in your class you start seeing that there are kids whose grades have started dropping, who've started slipping in their assignments, then that's a warning sign that something is not going okay with them. Additionally, even those who come in with a consistent poor performance, if they have been showing that for 3 years and it's still continuing, it's again telling you that things that have caused this have not changed. So we definitely need to look into it. It doesn't matter if it's been for 2 years, 5 years, 6 months. It's still an important sign that needs to be catered to. A lot of times you may find in class that kids are not able to focus as much as we'd like them to be. Yes, Mrs. Desai.
Ms. Pavitra, would you be more comfortable if we do the PPT for you while you are speaking, because the slides are not moving?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you because the slides are not?
Because you're not moving on with the slide. Maybe you're so crossed. Would be more comfortable if we do the slide?
Yeah. It's not reflecting on the screen, is it?
Yeah, because only one slide can. Can you go on moving on to giving it as a slideshow?
Sorry?
Slideshow.
So it is a slideshow actually.
Deba ma'am, your sound is not clear.
Yeah, and it is in a slideshow actually.
No, you have to change it, ma'am. It is not.
We are not able to see it in slideshow.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Only one second slide is still there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How would you suggest then we go about it?
You switch over to slide. Achha, you are saying, so should we show the slide? Would you be comfortable with it? Just tell us to go on to the next slide then.
Okay. But how would you do that?
You stop sharing, then I can share.
Okay, just give me a second. Sorry about this, everybody. Give me just 1 second.
Deba ma'am, you can do it now.
So should I start sharing?
Yeah, just 1 minute.
Was this the slide that you were talking about?
Yes, just give me a second. I'm just opening my page. Sorry about this.
Fourth one.
Yeah.
This point is covered, right?
Yes, this point is covered. You can go on to the next one. Just give me a minute. Right. Okay. So the second point that I was talking about is that we may notice a lot of times that some children are not able to focus as much as we'd like them to be. They may be persistently or at certain points of time distracted. They may be lost in thought. There can be conditions which can cause this, like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder that can cause this. However, at the same point of time, if a child or an adolescent is going through some kind of a emotional or behavioral difficulty as well, we may see that they are not able to focus. We'll see them spacing out when we're talking to them. And often we may call out the child as well about that. But understand that one of these is also a warning sign. Additionally, there are kids who may be chronically forgetful. They may not remember to get their assignments, or you may find them overwhelmed, saying that they forgot they had to do this, they had to get that, and that is another sign that something is not functioning in the manner that it should. Go on next. Again, there are some kids who may be keeping to themselves. They're usually loners. They may not mingle with everybody. Or vice versa, we may suddenly see that a child who was very responsive, who would communicate, who would answer in class, they've stopped doing that. Now, any of these that I've so far mentioned, if it's a sudden change that you see, understand that it won't be that for one day when they see it, or a week you don't see it, then it raises alarms. But let's say you see it consistently, this pattern coming in for at least 2 weeks or more, then you know that things are not how they should be. Something is definitely wrong. Next, please. If you see that those in your class, they may, very passively, they may very passively say that I can't do this, or I'm going to fail, or things never go my way. Now, one, it could indicate the start of a problem, or it could indicate a chronic difficulty in having confidence in yourself. Kids at this age, there are so many changes. They've started questioning themselves. So anyway, there are problems of confidence. But again, mental wellness, if we are trying to enhance that, it would be focusing on developing this. If we don't look at it at this point of time, then again, something that started off as a change because of puberty becomes a permanent marker into adulthood. Next. Again, most of our emotional conditions are obviously tied to our mood. So if you're seeing a lot of shifts in mood, with suddenly being angry, calming down, being weepy, again becoming happy very easily, all of these shifts, they're not just about puberty. Puberty, yes, there would be minor changes, but if you're seeing it persistently, if you're seeing it that this is becoming a pattern, then there's something definitely wrong. Additionally, next please, you can go in 2-3 pointers, I guess. I think that will make it easier. So along with this, you may also see an increase in anger. You may see a lot of acting out behavior where the person is not following commands. You may see that a particular adolescent would be rude to the teacher. You may see that they are rude with their classmates. They may be engaging in abusive behavior, verbal or physical. And all of that is a sign that something is not going right. Yeah, you can go on. You can go on for more points. Yes, thank you. So all of this, the mood, the aggressive behavior, and the sensitivity, all of it is tied together. Now, there's a spectrum. There are some kids, depending on their personality, they may completely withdraw. They may be overly sensitive. They may be sad, and they may be dull all the time. And there's the other group where they'll be constantly angry, they'll be getting into fights, they'll be rude, they'll be disrespectful, not only to the rules, but also to the teachers or their classmates as well. So all of this, though, yes, there are some kids who we may see start acting out because of puberty. But again, if it's happening, it's suggesting that some things aren't going right. So we stop it and we nip it in the bud so that it doesn't become a chronic condition. If you're seeing that there are children in your class who've suddenly put on weight, who've suddenly lost weight, who have suddenly become very preoccupied with how they look, with or don't care about how they look, a deterioration in that as well is marking that things are changing for them. The fact that I'm not caring about things that I did care about is telling you that my mood is dull. One of the signs of depressed mood, not clinical depression, I mean depressed mood, is that you stop caring about a lot of things. You lose interest in a lot of things that matter to you. So you may see this in terms of appearance, you all may see this in terms of activity, but both are an indicator of things not going right. Next, please. Again, sleeping as well. There may be kids who are dull in your class. They tend to be sleepy. Some also fall asleep. Again, that's telling you that they may not be getting a restful sleep. They are disturbed for whatever reason possible. Additionally, next slide, please. Additionally, you may also see that some kids are unhygienic. Their hair is unkept. They may be very disorganized in the way that they arrange things. All of this at some level is indicating that things are not going right. I should also point out that when I'm talking about a child being disorganized, an adolescent being rude, all of it may not always mean a condition, but it is telling you that something is not going right with them. And there's no harm in inquiring about it. There is no harm in us understanding where it's coming from. If it is nothing, when we communicate with them, when the right sources get involved, we'll know that it's nothing. But till we don't, all of these signs that are put down here need to be warrant some kind of attention and need to be looked into. Yes, Mrs. Desai. Hello.
And go to the next slide.
Okay. I know what's in the next slide, so I can still go on.
You can go on
with respect to that. So before I go on, any questions that anybody has with respect to these warning signs, not about how to resolve them because we're going to be getting to it, but anything that anybody wants to discuss with respect to these warning signs? I'm assuming no, because nobody said anything. The next, what I'd like to do is, I'd like to talk about certain specific conditions that can come.
I'm sorry, ma'am, sorry for interruption.
Yeah,
Two participants raised their
Oh, okay. Oh, great. Yes, please go on.
One of you unmute and please ask.
Yes, this is Sangeeta over here. Thank you, Ms. Desai. I just wanted to ask, all the signs are more visible when we are physically with them in class. Number
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Could you repeat? It was a little muffled. I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, sure. I'll try again. Is this better now?
Yes, yes. Please go on.
So in the physical state, these signs are easy to, I wouldn't say easy, but definitely can be gauged. But now for these past 2 years that we are online, is there any way in which we can gauge it in the online mode? Because they just are not on camera, they are muted when we are speaking to them. So in what way do we then understand their state of mind? And especially now that when they are coming back, what are the signs that we look for other than, I mean, because of being online, could there be depression? Could there be mental health problems? Thank you.
I'm so glad that you asked this question because it's very relevant and very pertinent right now with what we're going to be going into. There has been a 2-year gap for everybody.
We are coming back. What are the signs that we look for other than, I mean, because of being online, could there be depression? Could there be mental health problems?
Right.
Thank you.
Right. So, like I said, there has been a 2-year gap for all of us. We've not been able to get the right amount of time with the children to observe these concerns. And in some manner, it's a whole new classroom that we're getting. We don't know these students because now many of them have completely changed. These factors that we've put down, the warning signs, they don't change. But we need to see it from the light that most of the kids, at some point or the other, have been frustrated and have felt mentally unwell. I'm sure for all of us also we've experienced that. So now when we're looking at the kids coming in, apart from looking at these signs, I think what's very fruitful is to, one, have an open discussion with the kids about it, that, you know, how you felt. Take onus for the feelings you've had, the way things have changed for you as an educator. And then have an open discussion with the students about how was it for them. Understand some of the kids are going to share, some of them are not going to share. And that's fine right now because we're opening up a discussion for them to know it's okay to talk about it. 1. 2, I would suggest for all educators for at least 2 to 3 weeks, having either at the beginning of the session or at the end of your class, just a 5-minute talk about feelings, how's everybody feeling, what they could do, and then go on with your session. Thirdly, these factors, the risk factors, the warning signs, you're going to see with a lot of kids. So I would suggest observing it for at least 2 to 3 weeks. If you notice any of these particular signs coming in with multiple kids, have again a discussion with them. That I can see that a lot of us are having difficulty in getting back to class. We are not being able to focus. We may be feeling dull. Bodily changes, you cannot comment on right now. Like, you can't comment on their appearance. You can't look at their weight gain because that's something we cannot account for since the 2-year gap. But the emotional indicators, like you see them, a child who was usually very active has become dull. When you see that children aren't concentrated, have an open discussion without pointing out on any child. This allows them to understand that a lot of other kids are also going through it. Additionally, ask what would help them. What would make the transition back in these particular situations easier for them. And let's say after a month, if you're still not seeing kids settle down and you're seeing this chronic problem come in, then address it. Because a lot of kids you're going to find having a lot of difficulty going back to offline now because they're used to online. A lot of kids have had concerns with their appearance come in, and online offered them a platform wherein they didn't have to deal with these insecurities. So understand the kids coming back are going to be more insecure, are going to be more uncomfortable.
So now I'm going to show you how I use.
Okay. So I think these are some of the things that I would ask you all to do to help you all understand the changes that have come. I'll request all the participants to just mute themselves, because I think without realizing something may be getting on, and then that will just disrupt the session. I hope, though, I was able to answer some of the questions that you had. There was somebody else also who had raised their hand. Would they like to address the question right now, or should I go on and we address it later?
And go on, we'll do it later.
Okay, great. So apart from some which are just warning signs, I just want to very briefly discuss certain specific commonly seen mental health conditions. Understand that as educators, your role is not to diagnose them, but I feel that we do need to be aware of the common conditions that do come in. And these are right now, what I'm discussing are the most rampant ones. Mrs. Desai, if you could put them on the screen. So the first one that I'd like to talk about are anxiety disorders. Now, this is not just your basic fear response or the worry. For those with an anxiety disorder, they are unable to cut off and calm themselves down. Their body is constantly in a fight or flight stage, and their thoughts are racing, which doesn't allow them to calm down. I expect a lot of kids who are now coming back may be having different variations of an anxiety disorder or certain symptoms of anxiety. Again, if you're seeing a child struggling for a chronic period of time, maybe, again, now the reaction has to be severe enough. If they are hyperventilating, they are unable to enter a class, these are immediate problems. However, saying I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, I hope I get better, they are at a lower degree. But if kids coming in with severe physiological symptoms, it's indicating to you that their anxiety warrants an immediate hope, because they may not be able to calm themselves down. Another kind of commonly seen condition is a mood disorder. Now that could mean major depression, wherein kids are feeling sad, they lose interest with things, a lot of negative thoughts, and with all of these symptoms together, it can, not necessarily, but may lead to suicide as well. Bipolar is when you're having both a depressive phase as well as something that we clinically call as mania. Mania is when there is excessive agitation, overexcitement. You are unable to calm yourself down, but it's the opposite spectrum of depression. Now, either of these mood disorders or even an anxiety disorder can lead to children and adolescents feeling overwhelmed and then culminating in multiple attempts to either harm themselves or culminating in suicide. Though not I wouldn't call it a mental illness, but a lot of kids may be harming themselves, not with the intent to kill themselves, but that is a coping mechanism for them. They have come up with self-harm as a means to release their pent-up frustration. Yes, Mrs. Desai.
Nothing. Sorry.
Okay, your hand was raised. Another very common condition that you see is an eating disorder. Now, this could manifest in a person stopping themselves from eating, or once they've eaten, throwing up what they've eaten. The basic crux of it is they are unhappy with the way they look. They constantly feel that they are unappealing, that they are fat, and that they need to do something about it. And they come up with extreme means to deal with it. Let me clarify that a lot of things that I'm saying may seem very common, may seem like things that we all go through. But when does it become a disorder is when it is severe, when we engage in severe actions to deal with it, when it is disrupting our functionality, everyday functionality, and it has been persistent for a period of time. Next, please. You can go one more time. Now, learning disability and ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, I think is something which all of y'all must be very well equipped with. Most schools have presentations, have a curriculum for teachers to be aware about it. So I'm not going to go into too much of it. But the reason I put this down is to be aware that this is something chronically that we see. Kids unable to learn in the way that typically they should. Their reading, their writing, or their math level may be functioning behind. Not necessarily all, it could be just one of them. But despite their intellect, they are unable to perform to the best of their ability. In ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, kids are unable to focus in the right manner. They get distracted very easily. They may have difficulty sitting in one space, and you may find them constantly either out of their seat or wanting to share something. Again, the symptoms that I'm telling you are what we commonly see, not necessary that all have to be present for a diagnosis. But it's important for us to know that these health conditions exist. What you see in your class may be the start of something, or maybe a condition that has already formed. Irrespective, we still need to look into it. Next, please. What I'd like to do now is I'm going to give you different situations, and I would want y'all to tell me what would y'all do in this situation. I have given you specific case histories of certain students, and I've given you certain symptoms. What I would like you all to do is think about what could be going wrong. What would be your plan of action of handling this? You all can take a minute, read through the question, and then we'll discuss what we're seeing and how to go about it. Whenever any one of y'all is ready, y'all can just raise your hand and they'll allow you to unmute yourself. So I can see that we can talk to the child and parent. So, okay, I would prefer if you all can give more specific responses, because that will help in understanding what are the patterns of behavior you all are looking at, and very specifically what your plan of action would be.
Ms. Desai, can we call out the names of the participants who are there, so that one by one we can ask them what they feel?
Okay, we could do that. Do you want to go ahead with selecting someone who you'd like should speak?
Your Miss Avril Sule. Miss Avril Sule, would you like to unmute yourself and share what you feel?
Can you hear me, Deepa?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that we have actually had a problem like this. I think for a large part, everybody picking on that one person would become a further problem. So usually what we used to do was have a counselor, and the counselor would reach out to this student, because I think all the rest of the staff would complain about it. But I think one needs to know why. Because some of these things may be just upbringing, and maybe just generally disorganized. And I don't know whether that this is a mental disorder or just a laissez-faire kind of thing. So I think attaching any kind of a label to it is not required. So to get around the person, I would say that we have a lot of one-to-one, talk with him, and not point out the faults. Just try and just have a conversation, find out what the person really likes, and try and get in that. Let's say, for example, you discover the person likes music, so then you start talking about what kind of music, and establish some kind of a bond, and then find out exactly what the problem is. But I think it's it's not about putting them in a spot and saying, oh, you should fare better, you can do better, and why are you looking so unkempt? Those kind of things really don't work. I think they just go in the opposite direction.
Yes.
So what I'm sorry.
Yes,
So
Ms. Bhattacharya, we'll come to you. We'll come to you. Yes, Ms. Desai.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you're going to try to bond with the child, maybe try to create a space where you relate to the child, and then try to see if you can pick up on any particular concerns. And your next step would be talking to someone about it. So a counselor would be the next step.
I think I would be the counselor in that case. If somebody, brought this to me, I would do that. But I have found that a lot of people tend to, especially at the level that, in the job that I was, when it's a hospitality world, you're always looking at grooming. So that pinpointing on, you're dirty, your clothes are dirty, that kind of thing really doesn't work. You don't know. Many of us don't know. And I think the biggest problem with all of this is the large numbers, because we don't know what situation they face at home, from where they come from. And we've actually had a person like this who is now doing quite well, but still don't know what was the reason why he was the way he was. Quite often, I don't know if this is normal, but they send for the parents when a student is behaving like this.
Right.
And in my experience, often you feel very annoyed and with the student, but when the parents come in, you know where the problem lies. So, well, that's what I feel.
Okay. There was someone who wanted to share.
Yeah, Ms. Bhattacharya.
Yes.
Yeah.
So looking at the situation where there's an history of academic problems, one would feel that there were two reasons. Yes, coming from the background is coming from whether the parents do not believe so much in academic performance. So knowing that parent is one big help in understanding why he's behaving that way. Another reason could be that he is having difficulty in coping with the academics. Maybe he's got a learning difficulty, and therefore to identify it also simultaneously would be a good thing to do, is what I feel at this moment. So know the background and try to understand whether he has a difficulty, because being lost in his world, because he doesn't understand what is happening, forgetting to turn in assignment, these all look like as if he has a learning difficulty to me.
Okay.
I may be wrong. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you. Does anybody, one more person, if they want to share? Otherwise, I could discuss about it. Does anybody else want to share? Okay, I think Ms. Rachna Kamath has raised her hand.
Yes, she has raised her hand.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, even I also feel that some kind of academic blockage is there. Maybe the child is not interested in a particular field he's following, academics, he's forced into it. He's not able to vent out his anger against the academics. So in a way, he's showing his anger in a different manner. Okay. So by getting into the root cause of it, maybe if we shift that focus from academics to vocational, some kind of anger will go away. No? So I think talking to the child and finding out and taking all the important people in his life into confidence, and then finding out the root cause of the problem and then finding the solution.
Very well put, Ms. Rachna. Thank you so much. I want to point out one thing that Ms. Avril said. You don't label, you don't pinpoint. I mean, that's the worst thing that anybody can do. Think about it right now, when we didn't have anybody offering to answer, and Mrs. Desai suggested, I'm just going to go call out the names. I don't know, I had a flash in a school memory when I felt uncomfortable when I was asked and put on the spot. I don't know if y'all felt that way. But That's something that would be very uncomfortable for any of us because we want to be prepared. So if someone is not, there's a reason for that. I liked both Ms. Sangeeta and Ms. Rachna, I think, I'm sorry if I got the name wrong, who answered that it's telling you there's been a history of academic concerns. There's a problem of focus. There is, the person is, hygiene is not there. They don't reach their class on time. They don't reach for their assignments in a timely manner. It's telling you that maybe this child may not have either the right kind of attention or somebody supporting them, or at the same point of time, someone said that maybe education is not important in the family, or it could be a condition in itself. We don't know which one it is. Our point is not at all to diagnose, but it's to understand that there is a reason why this child is not being able to perform. There's a reason that the academic concerns have been there for some time and still not gotten the attention. And obviously with all of this, anger is also coming out, not wanting to talk to anybody else. You're right, it could be a learning concern, but understand emotional difficulties, chronic emotional difficulties also lead to all the problems that have been said here. My point of actually putting in this particular study was to understand that a child may not have a learning disability or ADHD either, but still have these particular concerns. But once we know this is there, yeah, we call the child, we could just have a general talk. We could also point out that if there's been a fight, you can start a conversation about it. Yesterday, things seem to get too heated. Start a conversation with that and then see where it goes with the child. We're not blaming, we're just asking, we're listening. Sometimes they just don't have anybody to listen it out. Again, you're not meant to be a psychologist or a counselor there, but you're just like a basic understanding of what's going on. And yes, the next step is involve the parents, involve a counselor, so that we can help out the child in the best possible way. But in class, we avoid doing certain things to make it more easier for this child. We don't call them out. We don't pinpoint them because that's going to make things worse. We try to understand what could be leading to it. We maybe at times give a leeway, but with the understanding that next time you do need to get it. This is becoming a chronic affair. You are giving in your assignment late, and I do need it next time. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to give you a leeway. And then let's say that the counselor is involved. You've spoken to the parents. That gives you more of the pieces of the puzzle to understand what's going on. Again, you may never know, or you may not completely understand if it's ADHD, if it is learning disability, but I don't think that's the point. The point is for us to be then able to help out the child after getting whatever information we have, to make it easier and support them. Next slide, please. Let's look at one more situation. Let's try to pen down what we notice and what we feel we should do with this particular child. Okay, I see someone said that it could be an attention-seeking tactic. Okay. Okay, excessive nightlife. Anything else? If either any of the participants who've put this down in as a message or anybody else, would you all want to pinpoint some of the things that you all see and maybe then go about what could we do with this situation? I also see ignored at home and time management issue. Very well, I think very observant suggestions. What else? How would we handle this? It could be an attention-seeking tactic. It could be that excessive nightlife is there. Maybe they're not getting the right kind of attention at home. Maybe it's a time management issue. What do we do?
Should we call out again?
No, that'll put a lot of pressure. Let's not do that. So somebody said maybe we involved them in too many attacks. Somebody said it could be an anxiety attack. Take the child to a counselor. Okay. So let's observe that this is a otherwise adjusted child. He is fun-loving. He is respectful and polite. He's not your regular child who comes up with disruptions in class. He may talk a little bit, but when he's told, he tends to quiet down. So he's not the regular what we call a problem child. Okay, so if you look at all the other things that are put down, he's not seeming to have a lot of the other warning signs that we're seeing. His performance is average. Sometimes things are up and down. And somebody talked about time management issue, which absolutely could be coming in. He could be disorganized and having time management issues. But the biggest problem that suddenly happened is now he started blanking out. He was not able to give his paper, which means that he experienced significant anxiety. The headaches and the odd pains are also a sign of anxiety or stress. Understand that our body and mind are connected. A lot of times when we're unable to show our stress or anxiety in the regular channels, then it may manifest in what we call as psychosomatic symptoms. Psychosomatic meaning, psycho meaning the mind, somatic meaning our body. So our stress starts showing in bodily symptoms. And hence, probably this could be another way that the person's anxiety is coming out. Less likely that it is an attention-seeking tactic. Usually, that's not the first arena that we go to when we see frequent trouble, bodily pain, body distress that you see, or blanking out. We don't usually go to attention seeking. But if it is attention seeking, again, it's telling you that there is a problem. If the child was mentally well, they wouldn't need to use attention as a means to get it. But again, I'm telling you, less likely that it is a attention seeking tactic, because even sleep is disrupted. So if you see a lot of warning signs that are coming in, and most likely it is anxiety that's coming in. I'm just going to look at some of the comments that some people have put down here so that I'm not missing anything. Okay. So yes, hormonal changes do come in at this point of time, but the culmination of the symptoms like the sleep being disrupted, eating problems, headaches coming in, and blanking out is telling you that an anxious response is forming. Not necessary that it is an anxiety attack or an anxiety disorder, but definitely an anxious response is forming. So if we are there at that point of time, when the person starts complaining about just, let's say, first bodily pain, and then also they say that I can't remember what's happening, I think the most important thing that they need at that point of time is a calm, a very calm response, wherein he or she is put at ease. They are given some water, maybe take them out of the exam environment if it's possible. Ask them to breathe out, not breathe in, because breathing out usually tends to relax you and tends to have a relieving sensation. So ask the person to breathe out, try to distract them, sensorily stimulate them. What I mean by that is give them something in their hand which they can squeeze, which tends to calm them down. If music is an option, which is less likely in this environment, but that is one thing that can be done as well. And asking and talking to them in the most calm tone as possible. After they have, and obviously giving them a lot of positive affirmations, normalizing the reaction that they've had. And after this passes, the next step would definitely be, because this is a bigger reaction, you'd immediately involve the parents, speak to them about this happened and we want to help out the child, and obviously having a counselor involved. If let's say that this is a response that is reported to you, that later on you come to know this child had this particular reaction, then it's very important to again go back and maybe list down some of the things that could have been seen, because they add a lot to the mental health professional and the parents who are trying to help out this child. But I would very strongly advise y'all that if y'all see a culmination of the symptoms at this point of time, take it very seriously. It is something that can lead to a response every time then they are in an exam situation. Okay, Mrs. Desai, just for me to have an idea, for my entire session, I have 20 minutes, or with questions, without questions, if you could give me an idea so I can plan out.
Suresh sir, can we
10 minutes with and without this. Up to 5:55 you can go, ma'am. 55 or at the most 6 o'clock maximum.
Up to 55 or 6.
Okay. So
Yeah,
what I'm going to do is
15 minutes more maximum.
So I don't know if that's possible, and maybe we could work it out later. Okay, there were two other situations. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have them maybe be available to y'all, and maybe what to look at signs. What I would have said, I'm just going to put it down. There were two more situations that I had in mind. Mrs. Desai, you're the one who will have to be taking the slides ahead, please. Thank you. So we're going to skip the slide 3 and 4. If you could just go on to the picture that's there. So understand, any child, irrespective of whether they're having a particular mental illness or if they are not feeling mentally well, most children report that they would feel the thoughts that Mrs. Desai is going to be showing on the next slide. Adolescence is a time that is very confusing. You are going through a lot of changes. You're seeing that you are questioning who you're going to become. You're questioning your sexual identity as well. And there's a lot of insecurity. So most kids at any point of time are having one or all of these thoughts. And it's extremely essential that as educators, we're aware that this is something they are going through. Next slide, please. So getting to the crux of it, how do we ensure that we build a classroom that is mental health friendly and a school as well? First and foremost, it's very essential that we're compassionate. We aim to build compassionate classrooms. What I mean by that is a classroom wherein we respect our students, we are kind to them, and we give them the benefit of doubt. Very simply, if someone talks to me nicely, if they are respectful to me, I know that I'm going to try to give my best to them, a lot more than otherwise anybody would. And it's human tendency. If someone speaks to us in a respectful manner, we do communicate the same. At the same point of time, though we're not in the shoes of these students, we need to put ourselves there. So we try to constantly remind us the struggles that they are having. We remind ourselves that they are the ones who are right now developing coping skills. As adults, we should have developed a particular set of coping skills which allow us to deal with different struggles. But they are right now in the learning phase where they are developing it. And hence at that point of time, when we listen to them, when we're respectful to them, when we don't label them, they are more likely to respond. A classroom where kids feel heard, where they are not labeled, where they see that they are not bullied or teachers speak up for them, they are more likely to cooperate. Don't get me wrong. I know all of y'all as educators are constantly respectful of the students. You are also trying to ensure that every student is respectful of one another. And it's really hard to do that constantly. We can't be there everywhere, especially now with online coming in. There's a big disconnect that comes in. But the way we respond to the students, when one person comments something, us immediately putting a stop to it, that's what kids are going to see. A lot of kids feel that what's the point of reporting someone bullying us or someone being mean to us, because nothing happens. They don't feel that it will be handled confidentially. And I think that's something we do need to work on getting to. Maybe calling the kids separately and handling it. Having one child who is not only the victim but also the perpetrator separately called and handling it. If someone is bullying someone else, they also have problems. So both need to be given the right kind of attention. Just like the leeways that we give, let's say a child who has a sprained hand, a child who is recovering from a stomach flu, the same kind of concessions and understanding we need to give a child with depression, with anxiety. And even if it's not a diagnosed condition, even those kids who are feeling anxious, we need to give them the same kind of leeways. And once we start doing it, that's when we are starting a classroom which is just, starting a classroom which is absolutely inclusive. When we talk to students respectfully, they see that this is how the teacher is talking to us, and hence they communicate in the same way. And not only how teachers speak to the students, but how they speak of the school, how they speak of other teachers. That makes a big impact. The kids who have some particular difficulties, they are not going to be getting a lot of praise all the time. And hence, it's even more important that we find opportunities to praise kids. We find opportunities in which we encourage them. I don't mean put them in a spot. I don't mean put them in a place which will make them uncomfortable. But I mean, even the smallest of things they do, praise them. Give them encouragement that you believe in them. Because sometimes that's all they need. They don't believe in themselves. We go with the assumption that they may not always be confident. And hence, we're giving them that. Can you go to the next slide, please? Also, I do believe in the middle, we were talking about what to do in an online setup with the new concerns that may be coming in with kids coming back to school. And I did talk about how it will be great if we can spend some time kept aside for building the same kind of rapport, building a space where kids can talk about their feelings or how things are going for them. And that's the kind of social time, if we can keep aside, that makes a lot of difference. Also, talking about your own feelings, talk about what's bothering you, talk about what may not be going right or y'all having a hard day. Maybe talk about a moment which was disorganized for you, scary for you. And that creates the most normal environment. We normalize these feelings so that nobody feels scared to talk about it. Nobody feels as if it's a taboo to talk about it. And understand that it's not possible to know everything. So we first get all the facts right. We understand what's going on so that then we can create the same environment for kids. Let's say if you had a misconception about something, talk about it openly. Talk to kids that, you know what, when I wanted to talk to you all about this, I started reading up and I realized 1, 2, 3 of my misconceptions got cleared. Maybe they had the same misconception. So when you talk about it, the kids understand that that's something that was untrue. So then they start learning also. They start responding differently to other kids in the same class. A lot of times when there's a problem that's going on, it's very natural for us to put ourselves in the middle of it and for us to personalize this situation. What I mean by that is, let's say if a child is being disruptive in class, we tend to, and it's very normal, I would also probably be offended that this child is not paying attention in my class. Why are they being disruptive in my class? I think it's important to do 2 things. 1, make it about the child. What is wrong that this child is struggling to focus? What is wrong that he was unable to finish the assignment? And by changing a few words around, our emotional response becomes lesser and we become more objective. For kids who have chronic problems, like let's say they tend to get distracted very easily, we relabel what's happening with them. And it's important for us to call it, this child has a lot of energy. How can I direct that energy? Somebody in the chat box earlier I read where we realized it's an anxiety concern. Someone did talk about how giving the child responsibility may work, how giving them certain tasks may help out and get them to focus better. And that's something that we can do with kids who have certain specific concerns that are becoming a problem for us. But maybe if we redirect it, they can use that deficit as a strength. So a lot of times kids who have ADHD, because they have so much of energy, we do recommend, along with other things, involving them with activities which would be physically engaging, because that's a good outlet for the amount of pent-up energy that they have. It's important as an overall school administrators as well to have often mental health training sessions for educators and to inculcate this as a part of the curriculum for teachers as well and for students, so that we understand better and we can respond better. That means we're creating an environment wherein people feel safe. They feel like they can talk about different issues. Additionally, when we're seeing a lot of problems coming in, when we separately speak to the child about very nonchalantly about certain things that have come up, they feel they can talk to you all about it. They feel that there is somebody who's hearing me out. And even though there are psychologists, there are counselors who are there to do it, they need to know that their teachers believe in them, that their teachers understand them. Because if they know y'all are doing it, they'll try harder. A lot of kids, they suffer from low self-esteem, lack of motivation and confidence. And when they get that from y'all, it makes the biggest difference. Parents, teachers, both of y'all, the impact that y'all have on the children, it's humongous. Whenever we are understanding the child, we are not expecting to be the ones who are going to solve this problem. We understand what our role is, and then we refer to the next person who needs to be involved. That could be a parent, it could be a mental health practitioner, whoever it is. But the first point of contact is y'all very often. And when y'all are trying to help out the children, it's extremely important to get to both. The ones even who have been diagnosed. Let's say we identified this child, we know that they have learning disability, ADHD, anxiety disorder, depressive disorder, or just learning deficits. We know the problem. We can still help them out. We can make things easier for them. We can maybe give them time. If it's a child with attentional issues, we give them responsibility. We allow them time to move around in class. We allow them certain fidget toys to keep to help them focus better. We give them breaks during longer sessions. If we know it's a child with anxiety, we talk to them about it, that, I know that this may be difficult for you. So sometime If you feel that you want to talk to me about it beforehand, if I can make some things easier for you, let me know. Let's say the child has social anxiety. They can't talk in front of a class. So if it's possible, we take their assignment. If it's an oral presentation, we take it without the students initially. And when the mental health practitioner, when the counselor tells us, you know what, they should try it in front of an audience, then we go ahead with it. And understand that when we're doing all of this, we are not fixing the problem. They're not broken that we have to fix it. Additionally, a lot of what's going on has to do with a lot of thoughts that they may be having, a lot of irrational beliefs that they're having. So they, I'm sure, if not already, they are working with a therapist, a psychiatrist for medication if it's required, and with their parents on how to do it, how to cope with it. So our role is not to be the ones to fix it, because if that is our expectation, then we're going to be disappointed. We're going to be frustrated. Understand where our role stands, and then we're able to help them out better. Our role is to try to support them and to make the child learn in the best possible way, according to whatever they're going through. And when we're able to do this, that's when we're enhancing their mental wellness. And that's when we have a holistic, inclusive classroom. And that's what all of us are here for. Thank you. Slide. If anybody has some questions, I know that we are struggling with time, but if we can look into some questions.
Do you want to put the situations for them so they know those situations?
So they
know what situations you had said. I think Miss Sore has raised her hand.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask, now this is secondary school students. They transit immediately into a college life.
Yes. You're muted. Yeah.
I don't know. So how do you deal with that? So when you see this kind of similar kind of behavior in a college, is it just that transition, or do we have to do the same kind of thought process and, kind of analyze again?
So just to be clear that I've understood the question, you mean to say if kids are transitioning, if we are seeing similar concerns, what could it mean and how do we go about it? Is that what you mean?
Is it the same? Do we deal with it the same way? That's all I'm asking.
I think when we're talking about a transition, what always makes it easier is to talk about it. Not talking about it always makes it more difficult. So having an open discussion about transitions, what to expect, always makes things easier. However, if you are seeing chronically these particular concerns coming up, even one of them, it's telling you that they are not able to cope with it to the right level. So you would still need to address it, still talk about it. And then if you're still seeing that it's not about that, let's say it's about something else, then that needs to be addressed. However, if it is about that, sharing our experiences, sharing what could help them out from your experience helps. But beyond that, when you see that we're not able to answer their concerns or their problems are still building up, then we do need to get a mental health practitioner involved in it, along with keeping the parents in the loop.
Do you honestly believe that parents are the right people to reach out to always?
Yes, I do believe that. I firmly believe that nothing can happen without them being involved. I understand that it may not always have the same fruitful outcome, but they still need to be involved.
Because it's like when parents are, called and told that you come to school, they normally, end up getting very annoyed and screaming at children. That doesn't bode any good outcome, as I see it.
So I feel there are two different steps that work. One is in general, the first step remains the same. We talk to the child first. We understand what's going on. And I do believe sharing with them that, it's a good idea to involve your parents about what's going on. Not because it's a reprimand, but I don't want this to continue and I'd like to improve this. Then see what their reaction is. Some kids will immediately open up, share that my parents will have a bad reaction. They won't understand 1, 2, 3. If this is something that immediately comes across, if it's possible and you have a mental health practitioner on board, it's very important to have him or her maybe do a check on what it could mean before talking to the parents. Okay, because then you have a lot more facts ready when you talk to them.
Okay.
Conversely, if you don't get much reaction and you get the parents in, and the way we communicate with them, not as a reprimand, but as a concern, did something change because this child has been performing well and is not being able to do it? Questioning in that fashion helps. If it is a child with the same chronic problems, I think having a discussion that things aren't changing, and we'd want to look into more options on what could be going on. In either case, I also feel if a parent is unwilling to accept, even the best communicator is going to struggle to get them involved. But that just means we have to try harder.
Yeah, I feel have to just like walk on eggshells or something like that.
Yes. But I feel they have to be involved because they are the biggest key in it. Because y'all are doing everything as educators that y'all can do, but they're going back to the same environment. Y'all cannot be with them 24/7, and the parents are going to be with them for a longer duration. And hence, parents have to be informed and have to be made aware about what it could mean. Most of them feel child is lazy, isn't trying, aisa hi hota hai. Ye to umar hi hai ki they become like that. Those are very chronic answers that we get, and hence we need to advocate and educate them. I hope that answers.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, okay.
But I have also seen that some of these problems, I mean, the 2 problems that you put out, when you see them in students and then in later life, you see these very same kids at the top of their profession. So my thought process is you just don't give up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why initially we talked about how it's important to get to them then. If you're able to get to them then, we are able to I think enhance their well-being to the extent that as adults, they are better able to cope with these difficulties.
Yes, thanks.
Anybody else?
Shall we wind up if there is no question?
I think we can do that. I see something.
Thank you for the positive feedback, Ms. Sangeeta and Ms. Rachna, that have shared that. Thank you so much.
It was a great session.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I should say that I know that there may be a lot more concerns that there may be in your heads, and maybe there are some concerns that may not have been answered. But I think this is such a vast topic that we could go on for days also about it. So maybe y'all could put in certain other requests that you have, and maybe the next sessions could be more targeted as well on specific things.
Can be done. If anybody would like her to address later on specific topics, please send us. We will definitely keep one more session.
Thank you.
Adhd, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Desai, for that insightful interactive discourse. As we approach the end of today's session, I would like to take this opportunity to thank ICRDE and Dr. Suresh Nayak and Ms. Deepa Desai for their leadership in organizing this program, which I am sure has helped all of us to think more on this subject. I also thank Ms. Pavitra Desai for taking time out from her busy schedule to offer her insight on this topic. Thank you, all the participants without whom this program wouldn't have been successful. We also thank the technical team headed by Indrajit Ratan. Our next webinar will be on 15th February by Dr. Ambujam Iyer on the topic latest pedagogies of teaching. We invite all of you to register for the same. Thank you all once again. With this, we conclude the session. Thank you all.